Hello everyone, today I'm here to review for you Sweet and Spicy. Now this is a small little card game that is a sequel to Spicy. And I should say the publisher did send me the game to review, but that doesn't change how the game plays, which we're going to learn about now, and then I'll give you my thoughts. So roughly, how do you play Sweet and Spicy? It's a bluffing card game where you have three different suits. You have chilies, pepper and lemons. They go from 1 through to 10, and then there's some wild cards which are either all numbers but no suit, all suits but no number, and then in this game, unlike the original, there are some total wild cards which even have a different back to them that are any number and any suit. Basically how you play is at the start of a round you play a card from your hand, and it must be between 1 and 3, or at least that's what you're telling me it is, of any of the suits. So if I'm starting the round, I might say this card is a 2 of lemons, putting it face down into the middle of the table. Now, the next player can, or anyone around, could challenge that and say that's either that's wrong, or the next player might play a card. They can play anything higher, but it has to follow the suit. Or again, they have to tell us that it follows the suit. So maybe they go, okay, this is an 8 of lemons. And it goes up until 10, which then it wraps back around, and the next player has to go between 1 and 3, but still of the same suit. So in this example, they could maybe play a 3 of lemons. Now I said about challenging, because that person that played 3 of lemons, I think they might be lying. Now this is where you call them, but unlike other games, you have to tell them, or tell everyone, what they're lying about. Are they lying that it's not a 3 or it's not a lemon? And that's where some of those wilds come in, because if you've used one of the wilds that say any number, if they say you're lying about the number, you're not. But if they said you were lying about the suit, you always would be. But maybe you'd actually just played the 3 of chilies. Now I go, okay, I think you're lying. I think you're lying about the number. I flip it over. I was wrong, but also slightly right. You lied, but I got it wrong of what you were lying about. The person that wins the challenge, either they were correct calling them out, or they were incorrectly called, they get the pile in the middle as points, and the other player, the loser of that challenge, draws 2 cards. And in this game has also the opportunity to take a total wild card into their hand if they don't already have one. Those total wilds can always be played because they can be any card, basically any card, any number or any suit, so you can never be wrong on that one. So the rough aim here is for you to get rid of all your cards, because if you get rid of all your cards and aren't called, or someone calls you incorrectly, you get to take a trophy, which is basically a plus 10 points. Now, your points are going to be those trophies alongside the cards sort of piling up in front of you from when you've correctly called people out, or others have incorrectly called you. At the end of the game, which is so far through the deck, a special card gets put in there, you're going to work out who's got the most points by counting them up. Now in this Sweet and Spicy, unlike the original, not every card is worth 1 point. Now, you're counting them out from your pile. If you've got one of those total wilds in your pile, it counts as 5. Unfortunately, the cards left in your hand are negative points, and if there's one left in your hand, it's negative 5. So it's really about timing when you're using those and getting rid of them, because you can also not use them to win a trophy. You just draw a new hand, which would be awful. And I've not seen it happen yet, but I can feel it will happen at some point as someone slips up and thinks, I'm going to get away with this, and then realise, oh, I should have maybe drawn a card. Because you can also, on a turn, instead of playing a card in the middle and lying or telling the truth, you can draw a card. But you're trying to get rid of your cards, so you don't always want to do that. Anyway, that is how you play the game. The only other caveat is there's 3 trophies on the table, and if one person wins 2, they just automatically win. It doesn't matter how many points other players have sat in front of them. So you really do want to be calling out other people on their bluffs. And that's how you play Sweet and Spicy, or pretty much the original if you don't include those total wild cards. So let's talk about this game on its own, and later we will compare it slightly to the original as well, in case you want to know is this worth it and all that sort of stuff based on the original. So just as this game, what a phenomenal bluffing experience. It really does create a lot of laughs, as like all of those brilliant other bluffing games do. There's certain times where you put a card down and you say 9 of lemons, and then it goes round the table and you know, it's someone's gone 10 of lemons, someone started it up back at a low number and you go 9 of lemons, and everyone's laughing and looking at you like, yeah, come on, that's clearly a lie. They turn it over because they've said it's not a lemon, and it was exactly the 9 of lemons. And that is an actual example that happened to me because I thought someone else had played it. I was like, there's no way. And they'd lied about the first one but not the second one. And then all of a sudden that sort of becomes a bit of an in-joke of 9 of lemons. And you're like, no, it can't be. But are you lying about the number or the suit? Is it a lemon at all? And you go, it's not a 9. You turn it over, it was a 9, but it was a chili. And you're like, I called the wrong thing. And I think that's one fantastic thing about Sweet and Spicy, is that even if you're not necessarily great normally at bluffing games, you can have a lot of fun with this, because if someone can tell by just looking at you, you're bluffing in a normal bluffing game, you're absolutely screwed. But in this, you have a chance, because they can look at you going, I think you're lying, or I pretty much know you're lying from your body language, but I still don't know what you're lying about. And that's a nice little twist up on it. And the amount of times you know someone's lied, you guess the wrong one, they get the points and you have to draw more cards. And then it feels really satisfying when you do catch someone out correctly. The twist with Sweet and Spicy are those new total wild cards. And to be honest, at the first sort of reading through the rules, I was like, okay, I can see them being useful, but they really are like a get out of jail free card. Someone gets it on 9 of pepper, and it's like, I could play this just as a 10. I get out of picking up cards. That's not bad, but then I don't have that get out of jail free card in a minute. So maybe I'll just pick up, or maybe go for that bluff still. Because if you've got it at the end of the game in your hand, it's -5 points. At the same time, if I use this card to get out of jail free and go, well, I don't have that 10, but I can play this and I'm good, we can carry on, and I'm not having to draw a card and beef my hand up, it's then worth 5 points in that pile in the middle. And it can be where multiple of them are in that deck and you really then want to win it. And it just sometimes almost ups the ante of trying to guess that someone's bluffed in the middle, because, well, there's 2 of them in this massive pile. It's a massive pile of points anyway, and those 2 cards are worth 5 each. Well, all of a sudden, you're starting to work out and wonder, is it right for me to play this card that can always be played or not? And that's a really nice little choice. And that caveat of you can't go out on a total wild is just the right thing of necessary, because otherwise everyone would always hold on to it, plop it down, get an easy trophy. And it's not there because you can't win a trophy on a total wild. It's a little rule that I don't always like because it's like a caveat, but it's a needed and brilliant rule in this, because that just again adds to it of, I've only got 2 cards left. Well, I don't want to go out on the total wild, so I'm going to have to play it now, and then you still have to either hope you've got a good number to play or bluff for your final card. So it does still force that brilliant bluffing gameplay. The theming of sweet and spicy, well, you're gonna like it if you look at the box, see the cats and are happy about that. And that's pretty much kind of what you're getting on the different card arts. You're getting like the general amplification of at the start. The chili's not very hot, clearly, but by the end they're like, you know, they're really spicy chilies. The lemons get sharper, and like for a one lemon, clearly it's not very sour. The cats are fine with that, but by the 9 of lemons, they're pulling slightly funnier faces and stuff on the cards as they go through, sort of ramping up. And that's just a fun little extra that you're not going to notice too much while you're playing, but it is quite cool when you've got all these sort of cards in your hand. And if you've got multiple of the same suit, you can sort of see the progression as well, which is a nice touch. It's not really anything to do with the game. They're just randomly cats, like the original Spicy, which was like randomly sort of tigers and stuff. But I think a lot of people will still quite like the sort of cute cats vibe that it's gone for. So let's just compare Sweet and Spicy to the original Spicy. I do think those Total Wild cards are a really good addition to the game. They just add a nice little dynamic without taking away the need to sort of, or potential need to bluff at different times, and with the extra points they either offer or maybe subtract from your hand. It's just, you need to play it, but when's the right time? And I think that's a really cool choice, and it doesn't affect sort of otherwise the very similar gameplay. If you've got the original, I don't know 100% that this is going to be needed in your collection because it's so similar. The only thing in this that's not in the original are those Total Wild cards. And they do replace the game tweaking cards from the original. The original had these cards where it was basically like, maybe as an example, it would be something like, in this game, 3s are wild, or maybe it's like when you get to 10, you can say instead of being a pepper, you can change it to a chili for the next suit, rather than it having to continue in the same suit. Just slight little tweaks that just meant this game's different. Well, to be honest, they often stayed in the original's box. You had to sort of play a few games and then go, okay, let's spice things up with this card. Yes, that was intended. Whereas in Sweet and Spicy, you're pretty much after one play always going to want to include those Total Wild cards. And you can remove them and just play, sort of effectively just play Spicy, but you're gonna just include them after a single play, or most people will just not shuffle them in because they're a separate pile, but include them from the very start. And I think that's the difference. If I was going to recommend one of the two, while the gold trim of the original Spicy cards is just that bit special, Sweet and Spicy sort of micro expansion of those Total Wilds, I think is always going to get used, whereas those tweaking gameplay cards in Spicy, I think do pretty much just sort of stay in the box, but do tweak the game. If you've played it for 3-4 times in a row, that's when you plop one out on the table and say, all right, this round, it's a little different. So slightly different, but otherwise they are quite similar games. The final thing I would say about Sweet and Spicy is look at the portability of this. You are easily going to be able to throw this in a bag and have a fantastic card game for 2 to 6 players. And this is the sort of game that does thrive when you've got multiple people round the table, because you can start being like, I'm not trusting what you're saying at all, and I still haven't got a read on you over here. So I would thoroughly recommend Sweet and Spicy. If you can give it a go at a game shop or a convention, definitely try it. And to be honest, if you've not got the original, Sweet and Spicy is a card game that I do think you should think about adding to your collection for bluffing brilliantness. That is Sweet and Spicy. Anyway, until next time, check out other news, reviews and such on the channel. And until then, have a great day gaming.